You know, when we think of ancient superpowers, our minds usually jump straight to Rome, or maybe Alexander the Great. But what if I told you that the world's very first true global superpower is one you might have just glossed over in history class? All right, let's get into the incredible story of the Persian Empire.
And it's such a strange thing, right? This was the first empire in history to connect three continents. We're talking Asia, Africa, and Europe, all under a single government. And yet somehow it always seems to be in the background. Well, we're going to change that today.
See, the Persian Empire wasn't just built on conquering land and taking stuff. It was built on a completely revolutionary idea. The idea that the whole world could be united under one law. Not a law of fear and force, but one based on respect and freedom. And that single concept would literally change the course of history.
And that big idea? It all starts with one man, the founder of the empire, Cyrus the Great. His character, his vision for the world, and his frankly unbelievable origin story, well, they became the bedrock for the entire Persian legacy.
The story of how Cyrus came into the world sounds more like a legend than actual history. So his grandfather, the super-powerful king Astyages, has these two terrifying dreams. In the first, he dreams that a flood pours from his daughter's womb and drowns all of Asia. Then he has another one. A vine grows from that covers the entire world. He's totally freaked out, convinced it means his own grandson is going to overthrow him. So he gives a horrific order. The baby has to die. But as fate would have it, a compassionate general just couldn't do it. The baby was secretly saved and raised as a simple shepherd's son, with no clue about his royal blood.
Well, it seems you just can't outrun destiny. Once Cyrus found out who he really was, he led a rebellion. And he got a key ally in Harpagus. Yep, the same general who was supposed to kill him years ago, who had his own reasons for wanting revenge on the king. Cyrus won. But then, at the moment of his victory, he did something nobody expected. Instead of executing his grandfather, which was the brutal standard practice back then, he spared his life and treated him with honor. That single act of mercy sent a powerful message about the kind of ruler he was going to be.
And this really shows you his entire philosophy in a nutshell. He immediately united the Medes, who he'd just defeated, with his own Persians, declaring them equals. So right from the get-go, Cyrus made it clear that real, lasting power doesn't come from fear and destruction. It comes from respect and bringing people together.
So with this new way of thinking, Cyrus starts to expand. And pretty soon, he comes up against the ultimate challenge, this city of Babylon. I mean, this place was considered completely impenetrable. Its walls were supposedly 40 feet thick and 100 feet high. So how in the world do you conquer a city like that?
He didn't use a battering ram. He used his brain. For 2 years, his engineers worked on a genius plan, digging huge canals to divert the Euphrates River, which ran right through the middle of the city. Once the water level dropped low enough, his army just walked right into Babylon on the dry riverbed. And the best part? The whole city was in the middle of a massive religious festival, completely oblivious. The greatest city in the world was taken without a single life lost in battle. But what he did next was even more incredible. Instead of sacking the city, Cyrus issued a public declaration, which was inscribed on this little clay cylinder. He ordered the local temples to be restored, and then he made a world-changing decision. He freed the Jewish people, who'd been held captive in Babylon for 70 years, and told them they could go home and rebuild their temple in Jerusalem.
I mean, just look at the ideas on this thing. For that time period, this is absolutely mind-blowing. Today, a lot of people call it the world's very first charter of human rights. It officially established freedom of religion, the right to personal liberty, and the idea of human dignity as the policy of the empire. This is why history doesn't just call him Cyrus the Great, he's also known as Cyrus the Liberator.
So after Cyrus's tragic death on the battlefield, the crown passes to his son, Cambyses II. But the big question is, will the father's vision survive? Well, Cambyses had all of his father's ambition, but none of his wisdom. He was obsessed with expanding the empire no matter the cost. And that obsession would take Persia to its largest size ever, but also push it right to the brink of total collapse.
His number one target was the ancient, wealthy kingdom of Egypt. And to conquer it, he used some pretty shocking psychological warfare. He knew the Egyptians worshipped certain gods and animals, so he ordered his soldiers to paint images of those gods right on their shields. When the battle started, the Egyptian army froze. They couldn't bring themselves to strike at the images of their own sacred deities. And just like that, their lines shattered. It was brutal, but it worked. But even as Cambyses was conquering Egypt, his mind was unraveling. He became consumed by paranoia, convinced his own brother was plotting against him back home, so he had him secretly murdered. His ambition created a huge mess. There was no clear heir, and while he was marching back from Egypt, he died from an infected wound. The vast empire he'd built started to crack apart.
So the empire is literally about to implode. And the person who steps up to save it isn't a son of Cyrus, but one of Cambyses' own royal bodyguards. His name was Darius, and he had exactly what the empire needed at that moment, a genius for organization.
Darius grabs the throne from an imposter, but he quickly finds out he's not the king of an empire. He's the king of a massive civil war. His real fight was just getting started. The whole state was an open revolt. We're talking 9 different regions, from Babylon to Media, all declaring they were independent. Cyrus's grand dream was about to become nothing more than a historical footnote.
For 2 straight, grueling years, Darius marched his army thousands of miles, systematically putting down every single rebellion. It was an absolutely astonishing feat of military and logistical skill. By 520 BC, he had stitched the whole thing back together. Persia was one empire again, and, honestly, thanks to his reforms, it was more organized and stronger than ever.
And to make sure nobody ever forgot who won or questioned his right to be king, Darius had this giant story carved into the side of a mountain. It tells the tale of his victory in 3 different languages. It was a brilliant piece of propaganda, basically a giant billboard saying, "I'm in charge," but it also turned out to be an incredible gift to history. Because it had the same text in 3 languages, it was like a Rosetta Stone that finally allowed modern scholars to understand ancient cuneiform writing.
So, why does all of this matter? Why should we care about this ancient, forgotten empire today? Well, because its real legacy isn't about kings and battles. It's about the powerful, world-changing ideas that it put into motion.
The ideas that Cyrus introduced, human dignity, religious freedom, a government based on a rule of law, were completely ahead of their time. They laid a foundation that still influences our modern ideas about human rights today. So in the end, the true, lasting legacy of Persia wasn't its size. It was its contribution to humanity, the idea that all people have a right to live in peace and dignity.